Hello, my name is Hannah and I'm 30 years old. I work as a graphic designer from my cozy home office in Brookhaven. My husband, Jason, is a real estate agent, smart, driven, and the kindest man I've ever known. We met 5 years ago when I was designing a logo for his property business. Who knew a casual client meeting would turn into a lifelong partnership? Now we're married, and I'm 7 months pregnant with our first child, a baby boy. And yet, my heart isn't fully at peace. You'd think this would be the happiest time of my life, and in many ways it is. Jason treats me like I'm made of glass and gold. His parents, Susan and Frank, call almost daily to check in, offering help, advice, and even recipes. Our home feels full of warmth. But a shadow hangs over everything. My own family. My mother, Linda, has always been complicated. On the outside, she's elegant and admired, an active member of local arts committees, charity boards, and upscale luncheons. She's the kind of woman who never appears in public without her hair styled and her pearls in place. But behind her perfect image lies a colder reality. My older sister, Vanessa, is the child my mother always adored. She works at a prestigious art gallery downtown and lives in a luxury apartment that Mom brags about to all her friends. For years, Vanessa has tried to conceive, but hasn't been successful. I've always wished happiness for her. But when I told her I was pregnant, her reaction wasn't joy, it was jealousy. "Are you sure?" she asked flatly. "You might want to double check. These tests can be wrong, you know." When I told Mom the news, she barely paused. "Well, congratulations," she said, before immediately pivoting the conversation to Vanessa's latest appointment with a fertility specialist. It hurt, but I said nothing. I've spent a lifetime biting my tongue around them. Now, with my baby shower just a few days away, my emotions are tangled. Jason and Susan are planning everything with such love. They've even invited Rebecca, Jason's cousin, and my OB/GYN for extra support. But the idea of having my mother and sister there makes my stomach twist in anxiety. I haven't forgotten the last time we were in the same room. Mom criticized my weight, and Vanessa barely looked me in the eye. Jason keeps telling me not to worry. "We're building our own family now," he says, kissing my forehead. I know he's right, but when scars run deep, they don't fade overnight. Growing up, I always felt like a supporting character in my own family story. My mother, Linda, didn't raise daughters, she raised reflections. We were meant to reflect her perfection, her ideals, her public image. And when we didn't, she made sure we felt it. Vanessa, being older and more naturally polished, fit into Mom's mold. She was graceful, eloquent, always dressed like she stepped out of a fashion magazine. I was the opposite, quiet, creative, awkward at formal events, always smudging my sleeves with ink or charcoal. When I told Mom I wanted to study graphic design, she gave a tight smile and said, "Well, not everyone's meant for prestige." That sentence stuck with me like a thorn under my skin. I always thought maybe when I got married, she'd start to see me differently. Jason is kind, stable, successful in his own right. We bought a beautiful little house on the edge of town and built our lives from the ground up. But even that didn't impress her. When I brought Jason home for dinner the first time, she asked him if he planned to stay in real estate or eventually get a real job. Jason laughed politely, but I saw the way his hand tensed in mine. Vanessa, of course, could do no wrong. When her gallery hosted a mid-level artist from Chicago, my mother acted like the Queen of England had just visited. "Your sister works with culture," she'd say. "Real influence. That's how you shape a city." Whenever I achieved something, landing a client contract, getting featured in a design blog, it was always, "Well, that's nice too, dear." Over time, I learned to stop expecting praise. But pregnancy shifted something inside me. Suddenly, I wasn't just creating logos or infographics. I was creating life. A little boy. A future. And whether Linda or Vanessa ever recognized it or not, I was proud of myself. Still, the old pain lingered. I hadn't spoken much to Vanessa since I told her I was expecting, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know how to handle her coldness. Jason reminded me, sometimes distance is the only protection.
He was probably right.
2 days before the shower, Susan called to confirm everything. Cakes ordered, decorations on the way, and the guest list finalized. Your mom and sister both RSVP'd, she said gently. I felt my heart sink. They'll be there, I murmured. Of course they will. But in my gut, I didn't feel excitement. I felt something much heavier, dread. The day before the baby shower, I found Jason in the nursery, carefully assembling the crib we'd picked out together last month. He had his brow furrowed in concentration, a screwdriver in one hand, and one of the instruction sheets clamped between his teeth. When he noticed me in the doorway, he smiled. Almost done, he said, tapping the side of the white wooden frame. Just need to finish this corner and test its stability. Can't have our little guy sleeping in a wobbly crib. I smiled, grateful for the simple steadiness he brought to my life. Jason was the kind of man who never panicked. When we found out I was pregnant, he didn't freeze or hesitate. He pulled out a notepad and started mapping out a plan: savings, maternity care, nursery space, and in every plan, he made room for my dreams too. I walked over and sat on the edge of the rocking chair beside him. Do you think tomorrow will be okay? I asked softly. He looked up. You mean the party? I nodded. Jason put down the screwdriver and knelt in front of me, placing both hands on my knees. Listen to me, Hannah. This is your day. Our day. It doesn't matter who shows up with what kind of attitude. We're doing this for our baby and for us. I blinked back unexpected tears. Pregnancy had made me emotional in ways I hadn't imagined. But this moment felt deeper than hormones. It felt like I was finally being allowed to feel safe. I just don't want them to ruin it, I whispered. They won't, he said, voice calm but firm. And even if they try, we'll handle it together. You won't be alone. Not for a second. Later that evening, Susan and Frank arrived with their car loaded with party supplies, ribbons, cake boxes, centerpieces, and handmade cards. Susan had even picked up tiny blue balloons that spelled out, "It's a boy." She immediately got to work decorating the living room, while Frank helped Jason hang string lights in the backyard. Dr. Rebecca called around 7 p.m. to confirm she'd be attending too. I'll bring my bag, just in case, she joked. Not that we expect any surprises, but I like being prepared. I thanked her, knowing how much her presence would comfort me. She'd been my OB/GYN since the beginning, and more than that, a trusted friend. If anything went wrong, I knew I could rely on her. May I have everyone's attention, please? The music lowered. Conversations quieted. All eyes turned to her. I froze. This day, she began smoothly, is a celebration. My youngest daughter is expecting her first child. People clapped politely. Jason gripped my hand. Linda continued, I've always believed in perfection, in standards, in grace. And I raised my daughters to understand that a family's image matters. My eldest daughter, Vanessa, she gestured elegantly, embodies that. She's classy, accomplished, refined, everything I dreamed a daughter could be. The tension was thick now. I heard Rebecca inhale beside me. But life, Linda said, her voice rising slightly, isn't fair. Vanessa has struggled for years to become a mother. Meanwhile, Hannah was never one to care about expectations. She just stumbled into motherhood. I stood slowly, breath caught in my throat.
Mom.
Stop. But Linda wasn't done. Why should we celebrate while my real daughter suffers? Her voice cracked with sudden rage. In one terrifying instant, she reached toward the refreshment table, grabbed the large ceramic bowl of steaming soup meant for guests, and hurled it at me. Hot liquid splashed across my belly. I screamed. Jason lunged forward, catching me just as I doubled over in pain. My dress clung to my skin, soaked and scalding. Rebecca shoved through the crowd, her face pale with urgency. Guests gasped, some shouting. Phones flew up, filming, calling for help. Then came the final dagger. Vanessa, watching with her glass in hand, laughed softly and muttered, "Serves you right." The world tilted. I gripped my stomach, breath ragged. The baby. Rebecca caught me. Jason, get ice. Someone call 911 now. Jason's voice roared across the garden, full of fury and fear. You just assaulted a pregnant woman. You're not my family. Stay away from my wife. Forever. And just like that, the garden exploded into chaos. Rebecca was all action. She eased me into a chair while Jason ran for ice packs and towels. My soaked dress clung to my skin, and a dull, throbbing burn spread across my lower belly. But what terrified me most was the silence inside me. No flutters. No movement. The baby isn't kicking, I whispered, barely able to breathe. Rebecca's face changed instantly. We're not taking chances. Paramedics are on the way. Just keep breathing, Hannah. All around us, the atmosphere had turned electric. Guests were horrified. Several were filming. Others were yelling at Linda and Vanessa. Susan stood frozen in disbelief, while Frank called out, "Did someone call the police?" "I did," said a woman named Karen, one of Jason's coworkers. "They're on their way." I told them a pregnant woman was attacked with hot liquid. Linda stood stiffly in the middle of the chaos, arms folded like a statue. "Merely expressed my emotions," she snapped. "She's my daughter." Jason stepped forward, eyes blazing. "You're not a mother. You're a threat. And you're going to jail for what you just did." Vanessa rolled her eyes and muttered, "This is all so dramatic." Sirens wailed in the distance. Within minutes, 2 squad cars pulled up outside the house. Blue and red lights bathed the hedges as uniformed officers entered the garden with urgency. The lead officer, tall and composed, stepped toward Rebecca. "You placed the emergency call?" "I'm a physician. This woman is 7 months pregnant and had hot soup thrown directly at her abdomen. She's experiencing pain and decreased fetal movement." The officer nodded, turned to me, then back at Linda. "Ma'am, you're being detained for assaulting a pregnant woman." Before Linda could protest, he signaled to his partner, who stepped in with handcuffs. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "This is outrageous," Linda hissed. "She's exaggerating." "No, you're just finally being seen for who you are," Jason said, his voice cold. Vanessa took a step back. "I didn't throw anything." "You encouraged it," said another guest firmly. "I heard you laugh. I saw you standing there smirking." "Ma'am," the officer addressed Vanessa, "you're now under arrest as well. Accessory to assault. You'll have your chance to explain in court." Both women were cuffed and led out of the garden. Some guests applauded quietly. Others stood in stunned silence. As the officers passed Rebecca, she muttered, "I hope the system does its job." Moments later, paramedics arrived, their gurney rolling swiftly across the lawn. Rebecca briefed them while I was gently lifted and secured. Jason climbed into the back of the ambulance with me, his hand wrapped firmly around mine. "You're safe now," he said softly. "We're going to protect our baby and ourselves." Tears filled my eyes. No more silence. No more pretending. Rebecca had given me a printed medical report before I left the hospital, photos of the burn, fetal monitoring results, her official statement as a physician. Everything was in place. By the end of the day, we had filed 2 formal complaints, one against Linda for aggravated assault on a pregnant woman, and one against Vanessa for complicity and verbal provocation. The charges weren't just symbolic. We wanted real consequences. Meanwhile, word had already spread. A guest had posted one of the videos to social media, blurring my face but not Linda's. The caption read, "This woman threw scalding soup on her pregnant daughter during a baby shower." By morning, it had gone viral. Thousands of comments poured in. Most were horrified, angry, and demanding justice. Some local media outlets picked it up. Our town's online forum had already named Linda as the woman in question, and someone even shared screenshots of her charity board profile. Her social image crumbled overnight. Jason showed me a screenshot of an email she'd received from one of the art committees she chaired. "In light of recent public behavior, your presence is no longer aligned with our organization's values. Effective immediately, you're asked to step down." As for Vanessa, her gallery's management suspended her pending investigation, especially once it was revealed she had mocked the assault publicly at the event. That night, As I lay in bed feeling our baby move gently beneath my hand, Jason turned to me. "I know this has all happened fast," he said, "but you've been so strong." I looked at him, surprised by my own clarity. "I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing it so our son never thinks abuse should be tolerated. Especially when it comes from the people who are supposed to love you," he nodded. "Justice isn't about punishing the past. It's about protecting the future." The silence between us wasn't empty. It was strong, resolute. This wasn't just about a single act of violence. This was the closing of one chapter and the righteous beginning of another. The courtroom was colder than I expected. I sat beside Jason in the front row, my hands resting on my rounded belly, now nearing 9 months. Rebecca sat a few seats behind us, ready to testify if needed. Susan and Frank were also present, offering quiet support with steady glances and nods of reassurance. Linda and Vanessa entered together, both looking smaller than I had ever seen them. Gone were the designer clothes and confident posture. Vanessa wore a muted blazer and flats, her expression stiff and pale. Linda looked even worse, aged, tense, and defiant. The judge called the court to order. Over the next hour, witness after witness took the stand. Karen, who had called 911, gave a calm, firm account of what she saw. Several guests confirmed Linda's speech and her physical assault. One guest even submitted the audio of Vanessa's comment, "Serves you right." Then came the video recordings. They were hard to watch. I looked down when I saw my own body double over in pain, the soup hitting my stomach, the panic that followed. But I didn't cry. Not this time. Jason held my hand the entire time. When it was our turn, I stood before the judge and said the words I'd been carrying for weeks. They didn't just hurt me physically. They tried to humiliate me in front of everyone I love. My pregnancy isn't a mistake or an insult to anyone. It's the most beautiful part of my life. And I will never allow anyone, family or not, to make my child feel unwanted, even before he's born. The judge nodded slowly. After a brief recess, he returned and read the verdict. Linda, guilty of aggravated assault on a pregnant woman. Sentence, 3 years in state prison without early parole. Vanessa, guilty of complicity in assault and verbal harassment. Sentence, 1 year in county jail, plus a mandatory fine and counseling. There was no celebration, no cheering, just a deep silence that fell across the courtroom like closure. Linda turned briefly toward me as they let her out. Her eyes were glassy, mouth half open like she wanted to say something. But I looked away. I had nothing left to give her. Outside the courthouse, the reporters waited. I said nothing to them. But when one asked, "Will you ever forgive them?" I paused. Then I answered clearly, "Forgiveness comes with accountability." And today, justice came first. Jason kissed my forehead and led me to the car. As we drove away, I rested my hand on my stomach and whispered, "You're safe now. We're free." 2 weeks after the court verdict, on a quiet spring morning, I woke up with a strange ache in my lower back and a pressure that wouldn't go away. Jason was still asleep beside me, but when I shifted in bed and felt the unmistakable wave of a contraction, I nudged him gently. "It's time." He was on his feet in seconds. Within the hour, we were at Brookhaven General Hospital. Rebecca met us at the entrance, already in scrubs. "Looks like baby Morrison is ready to meet the world," she said with a grin. Labor lasted 12 hours. It was long, exhausting, and beautiful. And then he arrived. At 7:46 p.m., my son was born, wrapped in soft cries and blinking into the overhead lights. The moment the nurse placed him in my arms, every pain, every wound, emotional and physical, melted into something new. Love. Not the kind of love that begs for approval or struggles for recognition. Pure, safe, unconditional love. Jason stood at my side, tears streaming down his face as he kissed my forehead and whispered, "You did it. He's perfect." We named him Caleb. Susan and Frank arrived shortly after with a bouquet of white tulips and a plush bear that said, "Welcome, little one." Frank held his grandson with a proud smile, while Susan wept softly, whispering, "This is what real family feels like." Rebecca popped in a bit later and checked Caleb's vitals, declaring him healthy and strong. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and one mighty voice. She laughed as he wailed with energy. That night, after everyone had gone home, I sat by the window in my hospital room, holding Caleb to my chest as he dozed. The moonlight washed over us like a blessing. Jason pulled a chair beside me and wrapped his arm around my shoulders. "You know," he said softly, "this house we were dreaming of, the one with more space and a big yard, I think we're ready." 2 months later, we moved into a quiet home on the edge of town. The backyard had a swing. The kitchen had sun pouring in every morning. And the nursery, Caleb's nursery, was filled with color, calm, and joy. We installed security cameras, locked down our legal boundaries, and never looked back. Linda and Vanessa never reached out again, not that they could legally. They faded into the past where they belonged. One night, as I rocked Caleb to sleep, I whispered near his tiny ear, "You're safe now. You'll never have to earn love. You were born into it." Outside the window, the stars were bright. Inside our home, peace had finally arrived. And with Caleb in my arms, I knew this was the life I had fought for. And we had won. Thank you for watching this powerful story of strength, justice, and new beginnings. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below. We upload more stories like this every week, full of emotion, real-life struggles, and powerful endings. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.